Cassie here. Welcome back to my channel, and in honor of Valentine's Day this week, I'm going to be giving you 10 of my favorite romance tropes. Now, one of the very first videos I did on my channel was my top 5 favorite romance tropes, and I didn't want to just repeat those 5 and add 5 more. So if you'd like to check out my very top 5 favorite, I will link that video down below. Most of these are going to be different than those. However, I do have to start out the first 2 with my very favorite tropes, just because I can't do a video like this without talking about them. So number 1 would be my very favorite trope, which is forbidden romance. I love forbidden love. It doesn't really matter why the love is forbidden, it just automatically makes a story so interesting and creates so much tension and conflict when you introduce a topic like forbidden romance. Love could be forbidden because of social class, or money, or race, or sexuality, or any number of factors. And the reason why I love forbidden love so much is because it puts all of the romantic conflict and tension on the outside of the relationship. So instead of having to amp up the conflict in the story by having the couple bickering and fighting all the time, which isn't very healthy, there's already enough conflict in the story simply because they're in love and society says that they aren't allowed to be. Which means that you can get away with creating such a beautiful, healthy, and supportive and loving relationship because there's already enough conflict outside of the relationship to drive the story along that you don't need to have a bunch of conflict within the relationship, which just makes everything so lovely and healthy, which is great. Number 2 on my list of favorites, which is also in the other video, but I felt like it was worth mentioning again, is fake love that turns real. This is absolutely one of my favorite tropes ever when it comes to romance. I just adore stories like The Proposal with Sandra Bullock and Ryan Reynolds, or Peeta and Katniss's love story. Any kind of story that is about a couple pretending to be in love and then realizing that they actually like each other. I just adore it. Which is part of why I was so dang disappointed by To All the Boys I've Loved Before, because if you've watched my videos, you know I do not enjoy that book, and it was very sad because that's one of my favorite tropes ever, and that's basically what the whole book is about. So I had very high hopes for that one, and unfortunately it definitely fell short for me. But in most situations, if you write a story about a couple pretending to be in love and then they actually find out they really are in love, I will adore it. And then the rest of these are in no particular order. So number 3 is romantic or sexual tension. This isn't exactly a trope, but it's just a thing in romance stories that I really enjoy. I love when a romance is dragged out, but only if it makes sense to do so. I cannot stand when writers drag out a romance in a way that is just so unbelievable and not realistic at all. A good example of this for me would be the TV show Arrow. Spoiler alert, I'm about to tell you a couple who gets together in Arrow, so if you don't want to know that, skip ahead a little bit. But the way Felicity and Oliver's relationship progressed was so silly to me in so many different ways. I love their relationship, I love the characters, but the way the writers chose to create conflict by tearing them apart and bringing them back together and tearing them apart so many times was just not realistic. It felt very forced, and it felt like it was being done purely because they didn't want the couple to be together yet, so they had to continue to keep them apart even though everyone watching knew that it didn't make any sense for them to not be together. That is the kind of romantic tension that I don't enjoy when it feels very forced. But I love romantic tension when it isn't forced and when it does make sense, when people are overcoming their own problems, or maybe they're unsure of themselves and a bit insecure and don't really know how to handle a relationship, so they're not sure about diving into it. Or maybe it's a forbidden love situation. Maybe, you know, it's set in the past and one character is white and one is black, and that's why there's so much romantic tension and the couple isn't getting together yet because society is keeping them apart. I just really enjoy all of the buildup of one of those really slow burn relationships where you're just waiting and waiting and you can't wait for that moment when they finally get together. Especially when it comes to teasing the first kiss, that is very important to me in a romance. If the couple kisses on their very first attempt and it happens pretty early on in the story, that just kills all of the romantic tension to me, and it makes it so much less interesting. Trope number 4 on my list is awkward nudity. I just really love it when there's a situation, generally in a comedic fashion, where someone maybe walks in on somebody or they're forced to have to change in front of each other, or I don't know, they're caught in a snowstorm and they have to shed their clothes to clutch together to stay warm or something like that. I don't know why, it's just a fun trope that I enjoy. It always makes me giggly like a little schoolgirl. Trope number 5 is love triangles where both options are viable. I know there's a lot of negative things to be said about love triangles, and I do see how they are definitely overused and often used in a way that is annoying. But personally, I really enjoy seeing a love triangle where both options that the person is trying to choose between are good people. I don't like seeing love triangles when one of the guys is just a douchebag and the other one's really sweet and amazing and perfect, and it's like, okay, well obviously she should pick him because he's good and he's bad, and that's just objective fact. That to me is kind of boring to read, and it also kind of lessens the power of the good couple's relationship, because it's like, okay, is she just choosing him because that douchebag guy is her only other choice, so obviously she's gonna choose him? To me, love triangles are so much stronger when both of the characters that the person is trying to choose between are really good people. Especially if both characters are even really good for the protagonist. Maybe with one of the guys, they have a lot in common and they have a lot of fun together and they're good friends, but maybe the other one, they have less in common, but he challenges her and breaks her out of her shell and shows her new ways to see the world. I like to see love triangles like that because number 1, we can't immediately predict who she's going to choose. Number 2, there might be some kind of debate among fans on which person she should choose. For instance, Peeta and Gale. A lot of people think that Katniss should have ended up with Gale, and a lot of people like that she ended up with Peeta, and neither side is really wrong because Gale's a good person. She probably would have been good with him. And number 3, I think it strengthens the relationship with whoever she does end up choosing, because it's not like she chose them because she didn't have any other options or her other options were all really terrible for her. She chose him in spite of the fact that there were other options that were also good, but this one was better, and this was the person who just really has her heart. And I just think that that's a better way to do a love triangle. Trope number 6 is realistic portrayals of marriage. 2 examples of what I'm picturing in my mind would be the movies Date Night and Game Night. Both of those I think have really interesting, fun, and realistic portrayals of married couples. When I say this, I'm not talking about the depressing stories that are oh, marriage sucks and this is all the terrible side of it. Some people might think of that as realistic because it shows the raw side of things, but the fun side of things also exists in a marriage, or at least it certainly should. So I really like stories like Game Night and Date Night are both really good examples of just couples. I think Tina Fey and Steve Carell in Date Night, and Rachel McAdams and what is his name? Jason Bateman in Game Night. I think both of those couples are really good examples of like showing both sides of things. They show the raw, real, like dirty, not so fun stuff, but then they also show just a couple who knows each other inside and out so well, and they're just comfortable with each other, and they still love each other, and they still are trying to like re-spark their passion and have a good time in life, even though things might get boring sometimes. They're still sort of keeping that thing alive that makes them feel those giddy, lovey feelings. I think if you're trying to go for a realistic portrayal of marriage, it's good to balance out both the good and the bad, and the boring and mundane stuff with the fun, exciting, passionate stuff, because all of that is there. Trope number 7 is unmet expectations / realism. I don't know if I really phrased this trope well because I'm not exactly sure what to call it, but basically what I'm picturing is a story like 500 Days of Summer. Something that kind of shows the raw, like real rough side of dating, and that sometimes you have expectations of a person, or you kind of idolize a person or put them on a pedestal in your mind, and then once you actually start dating that person, you start to realize, oh, they're actually just a real person. They're not this like magical unicorn I've made them out to be in my head. And sometimes there's a little bit of disappointment there. And sometimes that could lead to the couple breaking up because of it, or it could lead to them just realizing that they love the person anyway, and that they had these unrealistic expectations, but that's not what love necessarily is, and that doesn't mean that what they got was bad. It just wasn't quite what they were expecting. Number 8, secret relationships. I really love secret relationships. It kind of goes back to the whole forbidden love thing. Usually secret relationships also fall into the category of forbidden love because that's the reason that they're being kept secret. But relationships that are being kept secret, at least for a temporary amount of time, are just so much fun to read, and there's so much like romantic tension, and again, it puts all of the conflict of the relationship outside of the couple themselves. So they can still be really cute and happy and flirty, and they don't have to be bickering all the time, but there's still a lot of conflict because they're keeping their relationship secret from the outside world, so they need to be careful, and you're always kind of on the edge of your seat wondering when certain people are gonna find out about the couple and how it's gonna go down and how they're gonna react. Trope number 9 is older people navigating the... Trope number 9 is... Oh my gosh, I can't say this. Let's try this again, shall we? Trope number 9 is older people navigating the world of modern dating. A good example of this would be the movie Must Love Dogs. There was also a movie out recently called, what's it called? Book Club, I think. That one was kind of just about like several older women and their relationships in general, and one of them happened, or maybe one or two of them happened to be kind of exploring the world of modern dating and, you know, like using dating apps and stuff like that. And I just think that that trope is really fun, honestly, to see older people who have sort of this experience of old-fashioned dating, maybe when they were younger, maybe their spouse has passed away or they've since gotten divorced. So it's been a long time since they've dated, and now the whole dating world is completely new and different, and there are different rules and social cues that they don't understand, and I just think it's a blast to watch or read. And finally, trope number 10 is two broken people falling in love but not trying to fix each other. This is a trope I sort of explore in my novel Broken Together, which is where the novel gets its title. Basically, it's a story about two people who are very flawed and have a lot of darkness and struggles in their life and their history, and they find each other, but they're not trying to fix each other. They're just okay with being broken together, which I think is just really interesting and lovely to see. Another really good example of this, one of my favorite movies of all time, is Silver Linings Playbook. That movie definitely does this trope well, and I think it's just really cool to see, because I think there is something to be said about couples sort of finding people who are on their same level. Like, if you have a lot of issues in life and you know you do, then maybe the person who's gonna be best for you is someone who also has some issues. Of course, there can be a danger in two very flawed individuals getting together and just creating utter chaos, but I think there can also be some danger in someone with a lot of flaws and struggles getting together with someone who doesn't have those same things, and therefore they might feel sort of an imbalance of power in their relationship. Like, the one person is always trying to change the other person, or they might feel like their partner is looking down on them for not being as good as they are, or having more flaws than they do. So I just think it's really fun to see two people who are sort of not necessarily everyone's first choice in a partner finding each other and realizing that they are a good match for each other, flaws and all. So there you have it. Those are 10 of my favorite tropes in romance. I hope you enjoyed this. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more trope-related videos from me this month, hit the subscribe button so you can be alerted when I upload. And that's it. I'll see y'all next time, and have a great day. Bye.